people who have worked the drive-thru, what's the weirdest thing you've seen in someone's car? 2 guys naked on a bench seat. Driver made sure to tell me they weren't gay. That is important. Dude had a full-on sex doll dressed up in his passenger seat. Sunglasses, dress, and even a hat. I couldn't even tell it was fake until I asked for their order. Coworker and I looked at each other simultaneously and we both said, was that a sex doll? This is in a wealthy area of my city as well, so it was definitely a first. My gym teacher, drunk. He started eating the tacos at the drive-thru window. He was there for over 5 minutes, just eating. I saw him the next day in school. We both acted like nothing happened. Some real Coach McGurk energy here. Only worked drive-thru for a year, but the weirdest thing I saw was an alpaca in a minivan. They asked at the window if they could order some apple slices for the alpaca. I just gave them 2 packs on the house. Had a guy consistently come through the drive-thru with his penis out and showing the young girls running the windows. He would always order the same thing, large mellow yellow no ice, always on a Sunday, and always wearing military fatigues. Then he stopped showing up for a bit. We called him Private Peters, as our little sign to call the cops if he showed up again. A month later we get an order for a large mellow yellow no ice, so I decide to take over the window because had a 16-year-old running cash, and sure enough he hands me his money with his dick in his other hand. We convinced the car in front of him to stay in the lane and we called the cops. He got suspicious and left, but they caught him and was charged. A car pulls up, and all 4 people are just completely naked, just casually chilling. Not seen, but I heard a blowjob taking place over the headset. It was a location open 24/7, so we had to reset the tills for 10 minutes every evening at 11 p.m. so people would just sit in their car and wait. Most people don't realize that we could hear everything. The speakers don't turn off while the vehicle is there. Someone threw a fish at me once. Didn't order anything, just a drive-by fish attack. Someone pulled a gun on my brother because the salsa containers weren't completely full. You can get as many as you want for no extra charge. Had a customer come through with a giant grandfather clock in the back seat. The thing was so huge it was sticking out the side window, which just so happened to be on the left side of the car. Which meant dude couldn't get close enough to the window to reach his food and had to step out, cursing the whole time. Here's your change. Hey, do you happen to know what time it is? This is a recent headline from Arizona, where I live. Man, 70, was arrested with the body of his dead wife in his car after a stunned worker at a Carl's Jr. drive-thru in Arizona spotted him wearing only his underpants with the naked corpse upside down in the passenger seat. I worked at a Tim Hortons and once saw an old lady with like 50 cartons of eggs in her car. I made a joke saying, looks like you could make your own breakfast, and she got real straight-faced and said, oh honey, those aren't eggs. Still have zero clue what else you would store in egg cartons. 2 guys were hotboxing and decided to come to the drive-thru. They did not stop smoking even when they pulled up to the window. I swear a cloud of smoke rolled out the window when they lowered it to pay. They offered me a hit and I politely declined. I was working the drive-thru at Burger King in a snowstorm. Driver orders a Coke with no ice. When I hand them the Coke, they empty it a bit, break off a couple icicles hanging from the car, put in the Coke, and drive off without saying a word. Guy pulls up, I look in the back seat and there's a dude with all 4 fingers wedged up this lady's vagina. She was not wearing anything below the waist. I had to double look just to make sure I wasn't crazy, and that is when the dude turned his head and gave me a dead stare into my eyes, like he was trying to intimidate me. Very awkward, and I did not know how to act. The entire car was filled with trash. Like legitimately up to ceiling in the back seat and up to shoulder height in the passenger seat. I was so stunned I nearly forgot to give them their food. Worked in IT with a guy whose car was like that. Had seen the car in the parking lot many times, but was like a year before I saw him get in it. He was nuts, but didn't realize he was that kind of nuts. And he sat 1 cube away. A woman drinking a tall boy of Budweiser. It was 5:30 in the morning at a Starbucks. There's also a guy that takes his 3 dogs for rides. They ride in buckled seats and wear goggles so the wind doesn't hurt their eyes. I used to see someone come through with a lifelike mannequin in their passenger seat. I asked about it and turns out they did it to use the commuter lanes on the highway. You must have more than one person in the car or cop a fine. Either the guy sitting with a dog in his passenger seat and a coyote and a deer chilling in the back, or the woman wearing just a bra, but that one is more traumatizing. The driver had a comically large dildo in the passenger seat. He'd buckled it in and put a hat on it. There was this woman that would come through and get a hot chocolate every day. Her name was Mary. Mary was an older gal in her 70s, drove an early 90s Lincoln, usually had some old tunes playing, and weighed 60 pounds, if that. She was always so happy and so nice. I always gave her drinks for free because it was always such a treat to see her and she was just so nice. One other feature I remember is she always rocked suspenders and a random colored fedora every day. I think she reminded me of Ms. Frizzle after she retires. One day, she comes through and orders her usual. I said, "Mary, why are you always in such a good mood? What's your secret?" She smiles and waves me closer. I lean out of the drive-through window and she says, "Really, really good drugs." She winks at me, turns her radio up, and cruises out of the parking lot. Mary is my hero. One time I was with my mom when she went through a drive-through. The car stalled at the window and wouldn't start. I looked at her and said, "So, wait for the food and then push." She said yes. They came to the window with our order, we got everything situated, then I hopped out and started pushing the car. It was a big boat of an Oldsmobile, so I had to push it in a way that made it look like I was sitting on the back bumper. The looks on the faces of the people in the window as I passed by were pretty damn funny. We ended up going inside the restaurant to wait for someone to pick us up. Someone who was working the drive-through told us we could wait there as long as we needed to and they'd be happy to get us cups for the soda fountain. They checked on us more than once and we were only there for maybe half an hour. I grew up in a family that often didn't have a vehicle. And when we did have one, it usually left us stranded on a regular basis. This was just a frustrating inconvenience and the folks working in the restaurant were so nice and felt so bad for us. We were just happy to have a ride on the way and a building to wait in. My little sister used to work at a local Wendy's. A woman came through the drive-through one day with either a pet or a service animal. That animal happened to be a monkey. Does a naked man with bags from Burger King and Taco Bell already count as a thing? That is the most thing to ever be considered a thing. Had a drunk guy come through drive-through. A cop car was in line right behind him. Told the cops about the drunk guy, he was blitzed and was going to kill someone. Cops said they knew as they were planning on pulling him over before he turned in and went to the drive-through. They decided they were hungry and decided to get food too before pulling him over. They stayed at the back window and had us give them their food first so they could follow him out. Pulled him over in the parking lot was kind of entertaining. There was this really cute blonde girl that would always come through the drive-through naked on Saturday nights. Every now and then she would have another friend with her. We always knew when it was her by the constant giggles coming from her car as she ordered. We always had weird customers, being it was the world's largest McDonald's located in Orlando, Florida. An order for 88 Big Macs or 120 cheeseburgers was not out of the ordinary though. There is one guy who drives a hearse. It was a car that ran well and he could afford it. So when a teenager pulls up to the window in his hearse you get a little shocked. I also saw someone with a chicken. Complete with a harness and leash. It was cute. This dude pulled up and his girlfriend or whatever was almost entirely naked on the seat next to him, sleeping. When he pulled up, he saw my shocked expression, pulled her thin jacket, the only thing on her body besides the seatbelt, to cover her nipple and asked for some ketchup. He was shockingly casual. This girl used to come through with like 3 dogs. I finally asked her, "Do you have to feed these beasts?" And she explained that she just walks and grooms them. Well, one day she came through the drive-through with like 15 dogs and she screams through the intercom my business finally took off and got a bunch of chicken tacos for them. Come to think of it, I think she may have been trying to flirt with me. Damn.